Okay, I think we're live. See, can anybody see me? Hello? Yep, live. Cool. All right. I've been fiddling with the microphone, so I don't know how the audio is doing. Yes, all right. Does it need to be louder, more quiet? How's the audio? Audio is good? Okay. Audio sounds good. All right then. So then, I guess we'll get started. Hey, Night Riders, how's it going? Hope everyone had a good week. Hope everyone's having a good day. Yeah, all right. So I guess, we'll get started with another clumsy rambling stream. And we'll talk about some movies, and we'll talk about the Oscars, and then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So yeah, I had just a few subjects I wanted to talk about at the beginning in like the first half of the stream, or maybe 2/3, and then at the end we'll do just kind of like an open-ended Q&A. That's the format I'm trying to work with on the streams. So I guess if you can, for the first part of the stream, to keep questions as much as possible, like centered around the subjects being discussed. I'm not going to be a fascist about it, but I get distracted very easily. So I just want to get the discussion topics out of the way, talk about the movie of the week and everything, and then it'll just be a loose Q&A. So I guess the first subject I wanted to talk about was the Oscars. Those were Sunday, a couple days ago now. Seems people are still talking about them. There was quite a big thing that happened at the end of the ceremony there. I assume probably everybody has heard about it. But I guess first off I want to say just about the Oscars in general. I know I tend on this channel to be kind of disparaging of studios and Hollywood and studio filmmaking and larger movies and award ceremonies and everything like that. And most of the time I tend to be pretty disengaged from a lot of that stuff. And it's fun to snark on the Oscars, and it's fun to snark on like the entertainment industry, isn't it? But I guess when you get right down to it, maybe it has something to do with the fact that I don't go into the Oscars with any expectations anymore. But every year when I finally do, because my mom loves the Oscars and she always invites me over, and we always have like an Oscar party, and every year, as much as I say like, I don't care, Oscars, they're just a popularity contest, doesn't matter, has nothing to do with quality, it's not a definitive deciding factor on anything, it's just a popularity contest. Going into it with those expectations, every year I always end up having a good time. I'm always able to just separate the Oscars from being like this all-important thing, deciding the best movie of the year, the best performances, the best director, so on and so forth. I stopped taking that aspect of it seriously and just appreciate it as a ceremony, as a piece of entertainment, as a show. And on that level, I always end up enjoying it. I always end up having a good time. So, I guess at this point, because it happens so often, I don't know, because the day after the ceremony, the day after the Oscars, I always see, the backlash. The host was awful, the show was awful, the ceremony was awful, the choices were awful, all this stuff. I guess maybe I've found the best way to approach it, which is going in with no expectations, not really taking it that seriously, and just sitting back and enjoying it. That's kind of the way I do it, and I think every year I always end up having a good time, and I end up enjoying the host, I end up laughing at the jokes, I end up, enjoying the the numbers and the set pieces and everything that they do. And I thought there was some good stuff this year. I thought Kimmel was a good host. I liked the Oscars edition of the Mean Tweets. I thought that was pretty funny. The whole thing with Matt Damon I was laughing at. And then, yeah, at the end, there was a pretty major mistake. And I guess if anyone didn't see it, hasn't been on the internet in the past couple of days, Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, Bonnie and Clyde themselves, came out to... Oh, some people didn't like Kimmel, I'm seeing in the chat. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I know people... people have different reactions to it. But yeah, I guess like I was saying, going into it with no expectations, I don't really expect a great show or a great host or anything, and I'm always surprised going into it like that. So I guess it's good, kind of acting a little bit arrogant, like I don't care about the Oscars, I'm better than the Oscars. I think that maybe sets me up to be surprised, expecting to not enjoy it whatsoever, and then I end up enjoying it. Maybe that's how... what am I trying to say here? But yeah, maybe that's why I do enjoy it, because I go in not expecting to enjoy it. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, so they come out to announce Best Picture. Warren Beatty opens the envelope. He kind of fumbles around for like a full minute, like not reading who the winner was, and then he kind of shows the card to Faye Dunaway, and what it later turned out is that there was a mistake apparently with the envelopes, and so I guess he was trying to show Faye Dunaway that there was the wrong card, that I guess he was saying it said it was the Emma Stone Best Actress card, and so I guess he held it up to her to show her, and she just kind of like glanced at it, thought he was like kidding around or something, and I guess just saw La La Land and read that off. And the producers come up, they start reading their acceptance speeches, and then some guys with headsets come out and say there's been a mistake. La La Land did not win. The actual winner was Moonlight. And then those poor producers, I felt so bad for them. They had to give back their Oscars, and then the Moonlight producers came up and they gave their acceptance speeches. It was pretty surprising, pretty unexpected, and has a lot of people talking. A lot of people trying to put the blame somewhere. I thought it made for a pretty memorable Oscars moment. It was quite a way to end the show. And it certainly, the parts of the ceremony that I didn't think worked, like when they brought in the tourists from the LA Star Tour bus or whatever that was, that was kind of painful. Didn't really... It felt like... I was talking with my brother and a few other people at the Oscars party at my parents' house, and they were all saying like it felt like they were trying to manufacture one of those iconic Oscars moments, like Ellen DeGeneres had like the selfie that she took, and then Chris Rock like brought in the Girl Scouts to sell cookies, and now this year, Kimmel tried bringing in just like normal people. Whoa, they get to be on TV. They get to be on the Oscars. It felt, they were saying like, they had no idea what they were going into. I don't buy that. How could they not have known? But I guess the good thing about the whole Best Picture mix-up at the end, it made everybody totally forget about that, about how poorly that whole thing went. Now everyone's just talking about the Best Picture thing. So I guess that's good for Kimmel. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the ceremony. I had a good time. I enjoyed watching it with my family and friends and everybody. And yeah, I always end up having a good time with the Oscars each year, even though I'm always so grumpy and cynical leading up to it. And I was way behind on the nominees this year. I think of everything nominated, I only saw maybe one or two. I saw Hell or High Water, which I talked about a couple weeks ago. And I think the only other one I've seen is Zootopia. I think that was the only other one, which I liked Zootopia. That was a cute movie. That was a fun movie. But now I guess it's time to start catching up with everything. Definitely I have to see Moonlight. I really want to see Arrival, because I'm getting really into Denis Villeneuve and all of his work. I'm gonna have to see La La Land, and I have to see Whiplash still too. I haven't seen any Damien Chazelle movies yet. And what else was nominated? I know there were a couple of others. Hacksaw Ridge I want to see. And I forget everything else that was nominated. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to start catching up with the big Oscar nominees of this year, which is what I usually do. I fall way behind and then I start catching up in the next year. That's the way I play the game. But anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Oscars. I don't really have a lot to say about it, other than just because I don't take the awards that seriously, so I can't really work myself up into any kind of frenzy like talking about who was chosen for any given category, because it's just like I don't see it as like the definitive deciding factor of a film's quality or a performance's quality. It's just, what was chosen in that year. So, yeah, whatever. Time will tell what the best movies are or what the best performances are. So, there you go. I don't think I can really say anything else about it. That was over fairly quickly, only about 10 minutes, mercifully. So yeah, I guess we'll start talking about some movies now, stuff I've been watching over the week. I don't know what you all have been watching, but I found a few interesting things that I saw over the course of the last week. I'll try to talk briefly about a couple, and then go a bit more in depth with the movie of the week. But first off, before we get to the one in the title, Ramin Bahrani, his last movie, I wanted to mention a couple of others. I wanted to mention one that I saw a couple days ago called The Greasy Strangler. Now this is one, it seems to be developing a bit of a cult following. It came out 2015, I think, 2016. It's a small indie movie, so the way those tend to work is they get made one year and then takes a while for them to find a distributor, and then they get distributed in another year. So I'm not sure exactly, if it's a 2015 movie or a 2016 movie. That's the way things are with like really low budget stuff. But it was made a couple years ago, and I think its reputation has been building. It's been spreading through word of mouth, and people have been seeing it and have been, I guess, just confused by it, bewildered by it. I was bewildered by it watching it, but I gotta say, I also enjoyed it. It was really something else. For anyone who doesn't know what this movie is, The Greasy Strangler is, it's a little bit beyond categorization. Basically, the storyline is it's about this middle-aged guy who lives with his elderly father. They live kind of like in this dilapidated house. They give walking disco tours throughout the city. And this middle-aged guy, he meets this nice younger woman. They fall in love. And then it starts a sort of a feud between the son and the father over winning this girl's love. And then at the same time, simultaneous to all this, there's a serial killer stalking the city called the Greasy Strangler, who goes around strangling people and is literally just a man covered in grease. And there's not really any mystery here. You pretty much in the first scene, you are told that it's the dad that is the Greasy Strangler. It doesn't quite do justice to this movie, because it's not really about story, it's not really about plot, it's not really about character, it's just it's some bizarre exercise in style, or some bizarre exercise in a really unique sense of humor, or like Dadaist absurdity or surrealism, or I'm not quite sure what. I've never really seen any movie like this before. It's sort of like, I guess the best way to describe it would be, it's like if Tim and Eric made a horror movie. It's not quite a horror movie, it's not quite a comedy. Most of the time you're not really sure if you're supposed to be taking it seriously, or if you're supposed to be laughing, or if something was done intentionally, or if it was unintentional. It leaves you, like I said, pretty bewildered. Pretty bewildered the whole way through. But at the same time, I also think it's pretty damn funny. It's so crazy, it's so absurd, it's so strange, it's got such an offbeat sensibility that if you can tune in with it, if you can lock into it, whatever mood it's trying to set, or whatever mindset it's got behind it, if you can lock into that, then you'll have a really good time with it. I enjoyed a lot of the characters, and I thought there was some really memorable dialogue, like the whole, like, the bullshit artist. There are some scenes, like, between the father and the son. I guess this will give you some idea of what the humor style is like. There are some scenes, like, with the son and the father, where they're just, like, yelling at each other. They just yell bullshit at each other. You're a bullshit artist. Bullshit. They just yell at each other back and forth, the same thing over and over again for like 5 minutes at a time. Now, that's not really a joke, but if you're somebody who can appreciate the humor in something like that, then you'll probably really like this. And it's got a lot of gross out humor. It's got a lot of other macabre touches to it. But I liked it. I got into it. I enjoyed it. And I think if you're a John Waters fan, if you're a Tim and Eric fan, you'll probably really like this one. Some of my favorite stuff in it, it's like the actor who played the father, Michael St. Michaels, I believe his name was. He was just perfect. He was so funny, and really great as the dad, as the greasy strangler. He was so funny. He nailed every moment in that movie and made it really funny, made it really work. But yeah, if your sense of humor runs into the stranger side, the more surreal side, this is probably one you should definitely check out. Another one I wanted to mention is one that I just watched yesterday and that I really liked. It was called Prisoners. This was one that came out like 2013. It's another Denis Villeneuve movie, and man, the more of his movies that I see, I talked about him last week and his movie Enemy, which I thought was a masterpiece, and now I'm trying to track down more of his films, see more of them. Like I said, I'm trying to see Arrival. I really want to see that one. And now I have finally managed to convince myself that when Blade Runner 2049 comes out, I'm going to have to go see that in theaters, because Villeneuve is such a cinematic filmmaker. He composes his movies in such a cinematic way that they're made to be seen in a theater. You know, he's not one of these directors that feels like he's making something made for television or something made for a small screen. He really demands a large canvas because he's composing his movies in such a beautiful, carefully controlled cinematic way that, like, I gotta see at least one of his movies in theaters. My brother saw Arrival in theaters. He said it was amazing. He was really glad he got to see it on a big screen. And now I'm convinced that Villeneuve is one of those directors where that is the case. You do have to see it on a bigger screen, immersive sound system. You got to see it in a theater. So Blade Runner 2049, I'm not going to miss my opportunity to see that in a theater. But Prisoners, yeah, very good. Really good movie. It's a thriller. It's a mystery about kind of like this ordinary family living in a suburb. Hugh Jackman plays the father. Their young daughter is kidnapped. She just sort of disappears along with a neighbor's daughter one day. They just vanish without a trace. And Jake Gyllenhaal plays the police officer, the detective who is assigned to track them down to solve the case. And I really don't want to spoil anything other than that's just the setup. There's a kidnapping. There's a rather volatile father, played by Hugh Jackman, and a determined detective, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. And where it goes from there, if you haven't seen it, I know this movie came out a couple years ago. I think it was fairly popular, did pretty well. But if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, because there are a lot of twists, a lot of surprises, a lot of things that happen that are completely unexpected, but I was totally engrossed by it. It's one that I think you just have to see and just go along for the ride, because I thought it was beautifully constructed. The screenplay was terrific, the way the story is structured. Normally, with movies like this, with thrillers, with mysteries, you can sort of tell where they're going to go, what beats they're going to hit, over the course of the running time. With this one, it was the same thing that made me so enthralled with Enemy, is I really didn't know where it was going to go next. Prisoners, not so much, because it's more grounded in reality. Enemy is just totally strange and surreal and dreamlike, so I really had no idea where that was going to go. But same thing with Prisoners. Like, I didn't know who was going to be, revealed as the kidnapper at the end. I didn't know, when Jake Gyllenhaal starts tracking down a lead, like where that was going to go. The decisions that Hugh Jackman's character makes over the course of the film, the things that he does, I didn't know where that was going to end up. It had me totally engrossed and totally in suspense, in just complete tension and suspense, wondering what is going to happen next. Where is this going to end up? Where is this going to develop? I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great. Great performances from the leads, and great direction from Denis Villeneuve once again. He's such a masterful filmmaker. He controls atmosphere and mood and pacing to perfection. There's never a wasted shot. There's never a wasted moment. He allows everything the time it needs to develop and to really to invest the audience in it. He doesn't rush to any point. He doesn't rush to any story beat. He takes you into it very carefully and very methodically so that you're just totally involved. You're totally invested. It's a beautifully done thriller. And one last thing I want to mention, and hopefully I can do this without any spoilers, but the ending too, I thought was great, because what it does is really brilliant. There were several points over the course of this movie where I seriously wondered, like, are they going to solve the mystery? Is it going to arrive at any conclusion by the end? I really wondered if it was just going to end with total ambiguity, sort of like Enemy. But there is a solution offered. The mystery is, I guess you can say, solved by the end, but it still does leave some questions. There's still a lot of open-ended stuff at the end. You learn the who and the how, when, where, everything like that, all the practical details, but the why these things took place, what was motivating them, what was motivating the characters that are eventually revealed to have been behind it, what exactly was motivating them, I thought was a little... It's sort of delved into, but it's not really explicitly explained or illuminated. You don't get like any kind of big speech of the villain saying like, this is why I did it, this is how I did it. There's no moment like that. It's left a little open-ended. By the end, I had sort of like a vague idea of why all this happened, but I wasn't quite sure. I still today am still thinking about the movie and wondering, like, why did all of that take place? Why did those characters do those things? And I'm still kind of running over things in my head, and I'm realizing, like, how all of these like false leads that you get, like in the first 2/3 of the movie, all these red herrings that in any other movie would just be there to throw you off the scent, to send you down, send you to a false conclusion, think, okay, this person did it, that person did it. In any other movie, those would just be distractions to distract you from like who the real villain is, so that in the third act it can just come out of left field and it can be the last person you expect. This movie doesn't do that. It is very surprising, like the ending, who is revealed to be the villain, but it feels like it's all carefully constructed and it builds very methodically towards that conclusion. And as I'm thinking about all the stuff that happens, like there's one scene especially where, and I'll try to be as vague as possible. If you've seen the movie, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. But there's a scene where Jake Gyllenhaal's character goes into a basement and he makes a rather surprising discovery. And at first I just thought that was a totally kind of like superfluous thing, or just like something that is meant to, throw you off. I thought it was just a red herring. Turns out, thinking back on it, like, no, that was connected. That was connected to the overall story. That was an important piece of information that is connected to like the final villain. There's an important connection there that I didn't even realize watching the movie. It wasn't until thinking back on it today that I realized, wait a minute, yeah, that's important. That's all. There are clues everywhere There's everything serves a purpose in that movie. It's all building to that conclusion, and it's all connected. It's all layered into the mystery, and I thought that was great. I forget the name of the screenwriter, but the screenplay was really good. The way it's constructed, yeah, and the way it gives you clues all throughout the whole thing that you don't even realize are connected until the very end, or even after the end, thinking back on it, like you discover those connections. It's sort of like, I guess it's like a more audience-pleasing version of like a Michael Haneke's Cachet. Like Haneke, of course, is a pretty daring director. Like he can do a movie like Cachet where like you get no answers by the end, and he's got all of these things layered into the shots and the scenes and everything, so that when you watch it again, you just discover more things that you didn't notice that make you go, wait a minute, what does that mean? It just raises more questions, more ambiguities. Prisoners, I thought was kind of similar, where it gives you a lot of questions, a lot of ambiguities, this bottomless enigma to ponder, but also it's a bit more audience pleasing. You know, it gives you a conclusion, it gives you an emotional resolution, and if you're gonna watch Michael Haneke, does what he does, and his movies can be very difficult to watch as a result because he's so uncompromising. Whereas, like with Denis Villeneuve, he seems to have a bit more in mind of like audience expectations. I think for most directors, it's like if you're gonna do a 2.5 hour, really dark, violent thriller, you've got to give the audience something by the end, some kind of emotional resolution by the end. And he does that, but he still leaves a lot of questions, a lot of space for the audience to ponder and to contemplate. So I think, yeah, I would highly recommend Prisoners for anybody who is a fan of Cachet and loves thrillers and mysteries that really get under your skin and that leave you contemplating them for days afterwards. I'm still thinking about Prisoners and a lot of the stuff in that. So I thought that was a great one. Continually impressed with Denis Villeneuve, and am eagerly trying to track down more of his movies. And yeah, definitely going to go see Blade Runner 2049 now. This guy's a genius, a master, a brilliant craftsman, and an incredible artist. So he's one of my favorites now. But I guess I want to talk about, I'm not sure if there's something wrong with the chat here. I don't seem to be able to scroll down the chat. Or I don't know if there's just nobody posting anything. Hopefully there's no problem with that. I guess I'm just gonna have to keep going. But yeah, the movie of the week. Let's get to that finally. The movie of the week is the latest from filmmaker Ramin Bahrani. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, but he is a really underrated filmmaker, I think. He is getting a lot of sunlight. Oh well. But I don't think he's ever been nominated for an Oscar. I don't know like how well known he is amongst film fans. He was frequently championed by the late great film critic Roger Ebert. Ebert was a huge fan of his work. I believe Bahrani's film Chop Shop, which was his second movie, if I'm not mistaken, Roger Ebert added that to his great movies collection list. But basically, yeah, what he thought were some of the greatest movies ever made, Chop Shop was on that list. He wrote this terrific essay about it. It's been a while since I've seen one of Bahrani's films. I saw Chop Shop and his third film, Goodbye Solo, years and years ago, so my memories are kind of vague on those. But just recently, about a week ago, I saw his most recent film, 99 Homes, which tackles the 2008 financial crisis, the housing crisis, and examines, I guess, the current economic state of the USA. He's a director that is very much obsessed with America and what makes the people of America, what makes us tick, how we think, how we behave, how we relate to each other. all of his films in some way deal with some aspect of American consciousness, American culture. Goodbye Solo, is about race and immigration. Chop Shop is about poverty. And 99 Homes, is about economics, although it avoids approaching, these subjects like financial crisis, housing crisis, economic crisis, all that stuff. It avoids examining it in abstract terms, and it deals with it very much in just pure, simple, human, emotional terms. The story follows a construction worker, played by Andrew Garfield, who loses his home. The bank forecloses on his home. He's deeply in debt. He can't pay off the loans. And so, the bank forecloses on his house, and he gets kicked out by a ruthless real estate agent played by Michael Shannon, the great Michael Shannon, who is never not incredible in whatever he does. He gets kicked out and basically finds himself with his back just against the wall with no options. He has no idea what he's going to do. His son, his young son, his mother, whom he is trying to take care of, both of them, they're kicked out on the street and they don't know what they're going to do. Until he happens to be offered a job by this real estate agent played by Michael Shannon to come work for him. And at first, it's just kind of like doing, and I wasn't able to like fully follow like all the specific details, in regards to real estate and like the way they cheat the system. It's something to do, I don't know if I can fully explain everything. I don't know if I fully understood everything, but basically like Shannon's character hires Andrew Garfield's character to start going around to foreclosed houses, abandoned houses, taking the appliances, selling them back to the government. That's the way I kind of understood it. But basically he starts teaching him the ways to cheat the system. And as far as Andrew Garfield's character is concerned, it's like, well, the system cheated me. I have no problem cheating it right back. So he starts getting into this whole shady real estate business with Michael Shannon. But then it starts escalating. He starts moving up the totem pole to the point where he himself begins performing evictions. And he starts doing exactly what was done to him. He starts evicting innocent people out of their homes, which of course makes him really start to question himself, question his morals, question, he's doing this for money. He's doing this to save his family, but at the same time, he's destroying himself emotionally, spiritually. He's getting to the point where he doesn't know if he'll be able to live with himself anymore. And the whole movie is like a moral examination of capitalism, essentially. I don't know if I stole this from someone, but it was something I wrote in the review I posted on my Facebook and Tumblr pages. But what I wrote was, it basically, the movie examines what happens when capitalism goes completely unchecked. It essentially turns into a system where human beings and human lives are nothing but obstacles on the road to profit. And that's essentially what Michael Shannon's character is. He's just a guy that is only concerned with money, greed, profit, and the way to make money, the way to make profit is by destroying people's lives, foreclosing on their homes, cheating the system, doing whatever it takes to make as much money as possible. And he's one of those guys, Shannon's character, and it's a great character. He's got all these brilliant monologues, where he talks about, the United States and like this mentality that we've built up here, where it's just about money, profit, greed, and the way he rationalizes that in his head, the way he justifies that to himself, it's a pretty brilliant portrayal, and just perfectly realized by Michael Shannon. Nobody can chew a line of dialogue, chew through the scenery like Michael Shannon. He's just electrifying in this movie. But yeah, basically he's one of those guys that is just like, it doesn't matter what the right thing to do is. It doesn't matter who deserves what, who is innocent, who's guilty. It's just, how can you make money? How can you make the most money? And unfortunately, in some cases, taking advantage of people, destroying people's lives is the way you can make the most amount of money. And that's pretty terrifying and pretty sickening. Like watching this movie, going through that journey, emotional journey with Andrew Garfield's character, you know, from when he loses his house, where how awful and angering and humiliating and disgusting that is, experiencing that with his character, and then getting to the point, yeah, where he's working for Michael Shannon's character and he's making all this money and he's getting the opportunity to save his family, save his house, and you realize, like, yeah, it's money. Like, when you're desperate, you're willing to justify anything. You're willing to do anything. It just becomes about survival. But then the moral quandaries that start to come into play at that point, like, can you keep doing that? Can you continue justifying that in your own head? Can you live with yourself doing what you have to do to make the money that is saving your family? It's just a huge, I guess, it's a catch-20, or not a catch-22. What's the correct term for that? Like a Sophie's choice? But there's no right decision. But Bahrani, in his screenplay and his direction, the performances are great, as I said, especially Michael Shannon. But Bahrani, with the screenplay and with his direction of it, it's very intelligent, very emotionally in tune with these characters and their place in society, their fears, their hopes, just, you know, trying to earn a living, just trying to support their family, and just the awful, horrible place that they've been forced into through circumstance. I thought it was a pretty brilliant examination, of the financial crisis, of the current state, of this country, of where we are, in a place where we're so desperate and so in need of some kind of stability. You know, we're in need of money, jobs, that, look who we just recently elected. Somebody who promised he could bring us all that stuff, who was clearly, you know, the worst possible candidate, but the desperation was so potent that people were willing to cast their vote that way because they needed something to believe in. They needed some kind of hope in something better. Yeah. It's, when people get desperate, I guess morals start getting sacrificed. It just becomes about survival. Survival of the fittest, survival of the most ruthless, survival of the most greedy and vicious. And that's scary. That's really scary. And unfortunately, it only looks we're headed further down that path, which makes this a pretty terrifying time in which to live. And I really fear for the future. And I really fear, for the lives of ordinary citizens to whom, like, stuff like this is probably going to continue to happen, unfortunately. So I think 99 Homes, like all of Bahrani's work, it's extremely relevant, extremely powerful, and I think really demands to be seen. I think it's unfortunate that, more people don't know about his films, more people don't know about his work, about this film, especially 99 Homes. It's streaming for anybody who is a Prime subscriber on Amazon.com. You can stream it right now. I recommend that you do. For anyone else, it's available VOD on the platform of your choice. I highly recommend you check it out, because I think it gives you an awful lot to contemplate just about the current state of the world, and an awful lot of things to consider. It really takes you into that point of view of somebody at the very bottom there who is just totally a victim of this system. And how you can find yourself in a position like that where you're destroying lives, but it's all you can do to survive. Great movie, though. Very thought-provoking. And I think it really demands to be seen, especially today. And I guess that's about all I have to say about the movies I saw this week. I still can't scroll down the chat, so there may be a problem doing the Q&A unless I can get this figured out. Let me see. Oh boy. Yes, I have no idea if people are posting questions. The chat appears to be frozen. Let me see if I can figure this out. Can I refresh this? Will that work? I don't know. So sorry if you've been posting stuff in the chat, or like questions or comments or anything, and I haven't mentioned anything. I can't really see anything on the chat right now, so I am trying to figure this out. Okay, let me try clicking there. Here we go. Okay, yeah. Ooh, I missed out on a lot of stuff. I apologize for that. Okay. Let me see if I can catch up on some stuff. Okay, yeah, there's where I stopped. Whew. Okay. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there are a lot of good comments and good questions, but like, I think I'm just gonna have to skip over most of this. I apologize. I'm really sorry. I had no idea all this stuff was being posted. So I'm just gonna skip ahead to the most recent stuff in the chat. Sorry about that. Bahrani did make the short film Plastic Bag, narrated by Werner Herzog, which was a good little short. Yeah, he did do that one. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll just start going back and check out some of the questions I missed. Let's see. All right. Sorry, this, once again, yeah, really clumsy stream. I apologize for that. Oh god, the tourists, yeah. Manchester by the Sea. Oh yeah, Manchester by the Sea. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's another one I'll have to check out. Let's see. Oh, it's awful trying to catch up with all this stuff. It's much easier when you're seeing it in real time. How did you feel about the ending of Prisoners? I loved the ending of Prisoners. Yeah, I love it when films like end at the earliest possible point and almost kind of in like midstream, you know? Yeah, that cut to black, that final close-up of Jake Gyllenhaal and that little detail in the sound, and then the cut to black, I thought it was great. Really great ending. I love when you just like, you get to the point you need to get, and then just, that's it. That's all you need. Those moments really stay with me. Those strategic cuts to black, you know, and you just leave the rest to the audience's imagination. I love stuff like that. The ending of Prisoners ruins it for me. Not the final scene, which I like, but the reveal of the kidnapper. I could see that. Yeah, it is a surprise. I was too disturbed by Prisoners to be able to watch it at all. That I can understand as well. Some movies, yeah, I've been pretty disturbed by, to the point where I can't really watch them. One that comes to mind, mentioning Michael Haneke again, his film Amour. That was one, I think, especially at the time when I watched it too, I was really in a place where I was fearing death, mortality, aging, and that's Amour is a movie that confronts all of those things pretty head on in a brutal manner. And I think I maybe only got about halfway through, maybe not even that, before, you know, I was almost having a panic attack. I could not handle it anymore. It was too intense. It was too much. I couldn't watch it. Maybe I'll go back to it one day and give it another shot. But yeah, that, even just watching half of it, Amour hit me pretty hard. I was not able to handle that one. So yeah, sometimes movies can cut a little too close to the bone. I can definitely understand that. Gyllenhaal is actually correctly pronounced Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal. Everyone says it wrong. Must be really annoying to Jake. I'd never heard that. I didn't know that. Gyllenhaal. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to continue saying Gyllenhaal because it's what I'm used to. So, sorry, Jake. What are your thoughts on Park Chan-wook? I love Park Chan-wook. I'm a huge fan of his movies. Old Boy, Thirst, which is my personal favorite. I love Thirst. Stoker, I thought was really good. The whole Vengeance trilogy, Lady Vengeance, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, masterpieces, absolute masterpieces. Lady Vengeance was one that I had only seen once, like years ago. I recently rewatched the Blu-ray of that one that I own, and I found myself, I watched it like 2 or 3 times in a row because it was so brilliantly unconventional. Like, there were so many moments in that movie just in Park's visual choices, the way he staged scenes, the way he developed the story. It was so unusual, so original, so brilliant that I just became hooked by it, and I was just watching it over and over again, thinking like, God, how do you conceive of a shot like that or a moment like that? I think he's a genius. Park Chan-wook is certainly visually, he's a genius, and I think, yeah, the way he tells a story, the way he develops a story is also genius. I love his work, and I really need to see The Handmaiden. That's another one, which, yeah, that didn't even get like a Best Foreign Language Film nominee this year, which sucks. I don't think Park Chan-wook has ever been recognized by the Oscars, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, yeah, he starts getting some of the props he's due in the near future. But yeah, I definitely have to see The Handmaiden, and yeah, Lady Vengeance was the most recent film of his that I saw. But I've also Thirst was one where the same thing happened. I just became fascinated by that one, hooked on it, just watching over and over again, trying to pick apart the shots and the visual choices that he made in that one. The Thirst has, I think, one of the best dinner table scenes that I've ever seen, because normally you think of like people seated at a table, and it's like, I think, what are they playing? They're playing like poker or some kind of card game in that movie. They have like, the family has like these get-togethers in the film where they play this card game. And normally you think of a table scene, people seated at a table. You think like, okay, shot of that person, shot of this person. You break it down into all these bits. But the way Park Chan-wook does it is he just does it like in this one shot, moving around the table, and every choice is very carefully made. You can pick apart every little moment in that shot, when it pans from one character to the next, when it goes to a reaction shot here, when it moves around this character. Everything is so carefully designed and so perfectly executed. I am in awe of Park Chan-wook's talent. I love his work. Somebody got Arrival on Blu-ray today. Congratulations. High Rise. Yeah, I saw High Rise not too long ago. I love the book. I love the who did that? It's on my shelf. J.G. Ballard. That's right, J.G. Ballard. I'm not too familiar with J.G. Ballard's with his work as an author, but I loved High Rise. I thought that was a great novel. It was one actually that I wanted to adapt after I finished reading it, but Ben Wheatley beat me to it, the bastard. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Not what I pictured when I read the novel, but I thought it was a very interesting adaptation. I wasn't crazy about it, but I thought there was some interesting stuff in it. Jeremy Irons, yeah, was really good. Tom Hiddleston was good. I thought he was really terrible, Tom Hiddleston. I don't think he's very good in the Marvel movies, or at least the ones that I saw. Like, I think I only saw like Thor and the first Avengers, and since then I just haven't been watching them. But I didn't think he was very good in those. But recently I've been seeing him in a lot of stuff that I thought he was very good in. Like Jim Jarmusch's Only Lovers Left Alive, I thought he was excellent in that. And High Rise, I thought he was pretty good in too. But this person, Jesse V, did not like it. High Rise is probably the most heavy-handed film I have seen in recent memory. Maybe the worst film I have ever seen, because it tried too hard to deliver an incredibly simple message. Okay, I don't know that I agree with that, but oh man, a lot of hate on High Rise. Nothing more than pseudo-expressive hogwash from Madison Bounds. I guess some people really didn't like High Rise. I thought it had some interesting stuff. I like the psychedelic aesthetic of it, using like the kaleidoscope images and the surrealism. It was much more comedic in tone than I pictured reading the novel. I pictured something a lot darker and more harsh reading the novel. Ben Wheatley seemed to be emphasizing more of the comedic aspects, which was unexpected for me. So I was surprised in that way. Ooh, truly one of the worst films I have ever seen, High Rise. Ouch. Okay, let me see if I can catch up on the chat here. Plastic Bag is an extra on My Son, What Have Ye Done, the DVD. And that's a great movie, too. Two great movies. That is a DVD worth owning. That's a DVD I have. And, of course, a Werner Herzog commentary is always worth listening to. That guy's a genius. I love Werner Herzog. What do you think of Brian De Palma's films? I think they are masterful, yet they seem to have garnered a fair amount of hatred over the years, more specifically Body Double. I don't know that I agree with that. I think De Palma in recent years, his reputation has been steadily growing. certainly most of his films, when they were originally released, were pretty poorly received. Got a lot of they got a pretty heavy beating by the critics on their initial release. But sorry, I keep hitting my desk. I don't know if that's being picked up on the mic. I'll try to stop that. But yeah, most of De Palma's films got a pretty negative reaction initially. But it seems like in recent years his reputation has been growing, and a lot of his films are being reevaluated and seen in a new light and getting a great deal of praise now. Like the Criterion Collection has started releasing a lot of his stuff, like Dress to Kill and Blowout, and I think there are a couple of others. I can't recall exactly now. They've released some of his shorts as extras on those releases. Noah Baumbach recently did the De Palma documentary about him, so I think his reputation has really grown over the years to the point where he's seen in a much more positive light, and his films are seen in a much more positive light than they were initially. At least that's my impression. But as for me personally, there are things I like about his films and things I don't like so much. I like that he's so willing to experiment and that he does things in a really unconventional way, and he has a very specific sensibility. Like, you can usually tell, even if you don't know what, if you're like flipping through channels on TV or something and you come across a movie and you don't know what it is, you don't know who made it, you can generally tell fairly quickly that it's a Brian De Palma movie. You know, he just has a way of photographing things, certain techniques that he uses, a certain mood that he sets that is very distinct to him. And I think that's a difficult thing to do for most directors. Even really good directors don't really create a sensibility that is entirely their own. So any director that can do that, like, I even have to give Michael Bay props for that. As much as I hate his movies, like, you can always tell when you're watching a Michael Bay movie. So yeah, I may not like that style, but it is his own particular style. And as for De Palma, yeah, there are films of his that I really like Scarface, I think, is terrific. Blowout has some really good moments in it. What else? Carrie, yeah, I think is really good. I think all of his movies have like really good ideas in them, really good visual moments, but I think as a storyteller, De Palma can be sometimes a little obscure. Like, he can choose to convey a certain piece of information in a way that, I guess, watching it the first time isn't entirely clearly communicated to you. You know, he'll like put it in a background, or he'll put it in a split screen or a split diopter shot or something like that just seems kind of unnecessarily complicated, that obscures like an important piece of information rather than illuminates it. So I have frustrations with his films. I think I admire the fact that he's willing to take risks, that he's willing to experiment, that he's willing to try different things. But sometimes I think those experiments can falter, they can fail. I think there are sometimes moments in his movies where it's like, I kind of wish he'd just chosen a more straightforward way to tell this piece of information, because the way he's doing it here is sort of confusing. Like, there are a lot of moments of like that in Femme Fatale, one that he did with Antonio Banderas and what's her name, Rebecca Romijn. There's one part of that story where like Rebecca Romijn's character is mistaken like for somebody who's like her exact double. But like that whole scene is told through a split screen where you're also seeing Antonio Banderas and you're being introduced to his character, and then on the other side there's this important story information being conveyed, but it's kind of hard to pick up everything that he's trying to say in that sequence, and so as a result you just get totally confused by it. So yeah, I'm kind of half and half on De Palma. There's stuff I really like about his movies and his work, and stuff that I don't like so much. Let me see. I'm way behind on the chat. Let me see. De Palma's best, Phantom of the Paradise. Yeah, I do like Phantom of the Paradise. That's a fun one. Any words about Bill Paxton? Yeah, that was a shock. I had just listened to his sorry, once again running out of battery, gotta plug in. This happens every stream. I always forget about that. But yeah, Bill Paxton, I was not expecting, for him to pass away as suddenly as he did. I had just listened to his interview on WTF, the Mark Maron podcast, and it was a great interview. It was funny, it was interesting, and he seemed like such a nice, fun-loving guy, and yeah, he was a great actor too. Of course, Aliens, True Lies, The Terminator, he was always somebody that you enjoyed seeing on screen. So a couple days after listening to that interview on WTF to see that he had died, that was a bummer. I was not expecting that. I was really sad to see him go. And it was really interesting too, listening to the WTF interview of him talking about his work as a director and how he was wanting to focus more on directing instead of acting. And I remember thinking, like, I've been a fan of stuff he's done as a director, like Frailty, a movie, like a horror movie he did in the mid-90s. That's a really good one, an underseen one. Now he's dead. That's really sad. I was thinking, like, I hope he gets to direct again. I'd love to see what else he could do as a director. Now, that's a bummer. Oh, Existenz. Have any of you seen Existenz? I guess that could be directed at me too. What do you think? Because I liked it. I'm not sure if it's been that well received. I started Existenz one night a while ago, but just wasn't in the mood. First 15 minutes were intriguing, though. Existenz is very underappreciated. I like Existenz, yeah. I love Cronenberg. He's always so great at exploring these really innovative ideas in really great ways. Videodrome, of course, is one that I'm a big fan of. I thought it was an amazing update on Videodrome. Yeah, Existenz, is very closely connected to the themes of Videodrome. And Videodrome, of course, I'm a big fan of. I posted a review on my channel. That's one I've seen many, many times. Existenz I'm not as familiar with. I don't think it's as good a movie, but it's got some great stuff in there. The way, it explores virtual reality, the way it explores, the effect of technology on the human mind, human perception, and also just certain ideas for scenes and set pieces and design. There's some great stuff in there. Like, I think there's a name for it. I think it's called the Gristle Gun. It's a weapon made out of human bones and teeth. That's a pretty memorable thing to feature in a movie. And the organic virtual reality thing that's like part animal, part machine. Cronenberg's great with that kind of stuff, coming up with really freakish things that are so cool and disturbing and intriguing at the same time. I really love Cronenberg's work, and Existenz I think is a fun one. It's an enjoyable one. Not his best, but still a pretty good movie, I think. Henry, do you consider yourself a postmodernist? You have shown very postmodernist moments throughout your YouTube history. I have followed closely. Maybe? Honestly, I'm gonna have to be honest here. I'm not entirely sure what most postmodernism is. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I'm gonna have to admit my ignorance on this one. I'm not entirely sure what postmodernism means. I'll have to look into that. So I'm sorry, but I don't believe in bullshitting people. If I don't know something, I think I should be willing to admit that I don't know. Ooh, people talking about The Graduate. The Criterion Blu-ray of The Graduate, the new one, the new Criterion Blu-ray of The Graduate has the best looking transfer I've ever seen. Amazing on my 12-foot wide projector. That does sound pretty sweet. I don't have that particular Blu-ray yet. And somebody mentioned at the very beginning that the Criterion Collection is having a 50% off sale on their website right now. Anyone who's not aware, check that out. I wish I had the money to take advantage of that, but yeah. But I love The Graduate too. That's a masterpiece. Great movie. Another one, where there are so many great shots in that movie. Mike Nichols, at the beginning of his career, I listened to an interview with him where he was talking about, the first couple movies he made, he thought, you should try and think of a way to present every scene in one single shot. As he went on, as he continued directing movies, Nichols continued making great movies, but I don't think any of them were as innovative or as stylistically audacious as the first couple ones that he did, where it was all about like, let's find a way to do this in one single shot. So there are a lot of great little scenes, moments, set pieces in The Graduate where, yeah, it's all done in just one continuous shot, one continuous take. And I love that. I love movies that are done like that. The Graduate, I think, has a better story, a better screenplay, better characters. I'd say it's a better movie, but for direction, for just like staging and shots, I think Nichols' next movie, Catch-22, is even better. There are shots in Catch-22 that still blow my mind when I see them. I think Catch-22 is really underrated. Stylistically, yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Fortunately, yeah, I just don't have the money spending on stuff like that anymore. It drives me crazy. I'm such a mindless consumer. I want to buy. Let's see. How long have I been going? I've lost track of the time here. About an hour. Okay, we'll do a couple more questions. I think we can keep going. Let's see. Nobody is sure what postmodernism is. Well, that's good to know. That makes me feel a little less self-conscious. Noam Chomsky doesn't know what postmodernism is. The beginning shots, every shot takes on a double meaning. Let's see. Omar Little. Okay, so I assume you're talking about The Graduate there. In the beginning shots, every shot takes on a double meaning. It's been a little while since I've seen it. I'm trying to remember what the first few shots are. Yeah, I'll have to see that one again. Try and get a hold of it somehow. Yeah, probably just try like the library or something. But yeah, I love The Graduate. That's one that gets better every time I see it. So yeah, might be time to watch it again. Have you seen La Jetée, the basis for 12 Monkeys? There is a Criterion Blu-ray. Yeah, I own that one. La Jetée, not one of my favorites, but yeah, it is a cool little short. Really innovative. I guess unfortunately, yeah, I wasn't as blown away by it as I otherwise would have been if I hadn't seen 12 Monkeys first, which, yeah, uses a lot of the same ideas, plot devices, everything. So I saw 12 Monkeys first and was blown away, yeah, by how innovative that one was. Then I saw La Jetée. So unfortunately, by that point, the ideas were kind of familiar to me. But yeah, the whole thing of doing it with still images yeah, the story is still great. It's a brilliant story, which... Should I spoil it? Should I not? I don't know. But yeah, the whole take on time travel and yeah, the circular narrative of where it ends, where it begins, that's pretty brilliant. Yeah, I got to give it credit for that. That's a pretty brilliantly designed story. And yeah, it is really cool the way it's executed with the still images and the sound design. That's a really good way of giving the impression of a much bigger movie with a minimum amount of resources, you know? So yeah, creativity, yeah, is the most important thing. It's not about money, it's not about equipment or whatever. It's all about creativity. If you can solve a problem with creativity, you can really create something great. Stallone was in Assassins and Creed. Assassin's Creed. That's good. Speaking of Assassin's Creed, too, my brother and I had an idea. We never ended up doing it because the movie just looked so bad, but we were thinking about going to see the Assassin's Creed movie and taking along his Xbox One controllers, saying, we're here to play the new Assassin's Creed, and then just sit there in the theater, like, hitting all the buttons and everything. We didn't end up doing it, but it was... We thought it'd be pretty fun if we did actually do that. Never did, though. Maybe next time. The fact that you admit your ignorance on postmodernism only signifies your postmodernism. I'll take your word for that one. Okay, not really seeing any more questions, so I guess this might be a good time to bring the stream to a close. Just taking another look here. Yeah, I think that's a pretty pretty good note to end on, making fun of video game movies. But yeah, so I guess that's about it. I hope you all had a good time. I always enjoy doing these. It's fun to have a conversation with other film fans about movies. Get to blabber on about all my opinions, act like I'm so important up here. But yeah, I always enjoy getting to interact with everybody this way. So I guess that'll be about it for this stream. I hope you all had a good time. I hope you'll all tune in next week for the stream then. And gotta do the whoring at the end. You can subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. You can support me on Patreon if you would feel inclined to do so. All the links are in the description for the videos. Either way, thank you so much for supporting the channel, for watching. Have you seen Green Room or Blue Ruin? Yes, I have, and they're both terrific. Green Room I preferred over Blue Ruin, but they're both pretty good. Jeremy Saulnier is a terrific new talent. I'll throw that one in there for you for free. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week. Have a good week. Watch some good movies. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And see you next time. Bye-bye.